Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Podcast. It's a dizzying podcast, as you can see, the way Austin Ward, my able-bodied co-pilot, was reacting there to that twirl. But hey, Austin, how you doing, my man?
Great. Just no more loops in midair, all right? Just slow and steady.
Yeah. I love the aileron roll, man. That's my favorite little maneuver because just when you think you know it's coming, you don't. But anyway, let's just jump into it here real quick. Last week was an interesting week in Ohio State football history, in my opinion, because we got to talk a little bit about the defensive line and the guys that are coming along. I wrote a story for you about Talik Williams. Our buddy Spencer Holbrook wrote a story about Mike Hall. Those two guys could be on everybody's lips this time of year from now. I don't know if you agree. But my point is, we also got to watch Pro Day. And I wanted to ask you this before we move on to my special guest this week, which I did a little segment with Garrett Wilson, his mom, Candace, and his dad, Kenny. Just don't call him late for the basketball, Jim. Guy was a hell of a player at Davidson before Steph Curry. I digress. That'll be the only time I say that this podcast, or at least in this part of the podcast.
Get it out of the way early.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you before we move on to that, who, and this is kind of a loaded question, who jumped out at you in that pro day at The Ohio State University in the comfortable confines of the Woody Hayes Athletic Center indoor field?
Wow. I think you know the answer to that.
Okay. Master Teague, I agree. Master Teague did stand out. He did stand out.
He had a great workout.
But oh my goodness. I'm watching some of these workouts right now. I'm jumping in there and answering your question for it. I'm watching some of these quarterback workouts from around the country. I've watched them on video that pop up on Twitter, and you can get them on YouTube and stuff. Go ahead with your answer.
Yeah, CJ Stroud would be the first quarterback taken in the NFL draft if he was eligible for it right now. And, obviously he got to take advantage of this situation. We've seen this increasingly over the last couple of years because Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson needed, a quarterback to go throw for him. And Cardale Jones could have done that, and he did that for some other people last Wednesday. But, with every team and every league in North America coming in there to watch what can happen with those two, the guy throwing the football, anybody that needs a quarterback might think about just waiting a year. And I know that that's unfortunate for anyone who's, let's say, the Carolina Panthers or the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you don't want to think about tanking, but you look at CJ Stroud compared to some of these other workouts and then project another year of physical and mental maturation to that, look out. My goodness. You can tell that physically this winter workout that he took that very seriously. That the mental part of the game and working with Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson and Brian Hartline and Corey Dennis and the whole crew over there, the steps that he can take, get more comfortable just with reps. This guy's building for something special. And then, but just in shorts and a t-shirt, no pads and no defense, just routes on air. It's still jaw-dropping to see some of the things that he can do. And, I joked with him as he walked off the field, and I think you did the same. Like, whose pro day was this? Yeah. Everybody there, Mike Vrabel standing right behind him. Everybody was watching him closer than anybody else that was working out. And that's not a knock on the other guys, not a knock on Olave, not on Garrett Wilson. The measurables that Master Teague put together, the blocking drills that, Thayer Munford and Nick Petit-Frere did, and Tyreek Smith and Haskell Garrett moving around. Hey, all those guys accomplished the things that they wanted to. It was a successful Ohio State Pro Day, but it's the one that's going to be back to do it again next year that had everybody really talking.
Who knows? You may sit that one out. Hey, you got a chance to come see me. Got a chance to come see me last year. You missed it. But I'm serious. I've been around the game now for I'm 60, just turned 68. So I've been around the game watching quarterbacks for 63 years, 64 years, and kind of understanding what's up. And then increasingly as it went, especially when I became a sports writer and got to watch practices up close and personal. I will tell you, the ball jumps out of CJ Stroud's hand about as well as anybody I've ever seen. And to me, I think that's a change from even this time a year ago when we were watching him throw. Ryan Day and Corey Dennis and Mickey Marotti and everybody else who's associated with getting these guys ready to play, he's definitely improved compared to even this time a year ago, in my opinion. I mean, remember this time a year ago, the jury was out on whether he was going to be the starter with everybody except juror number 3, Austin Ward. And it really wasn't out with me, but I just liked the conversation. And when the head coach was saying it was still out, the jury was still out, and he was a jury foreman, you had to take him at his word, right? Till they went back and looked at more evidence and decided, okay, guilty. CJ Stroud's the starter. I don't know why I jumped into that, except to say that he is so much, in my opinion, so much more impressive than he was even this time a year ago. Because this time a year ago, he looked a little bit skinny. I thought he threw the ball well, back then. But now, man, he threw a 60-yard pass the other day that looked effortless. I know it's not. If you break it down, it's not. But the ball just came out of his hand down the right sideline. And I just went, that is such a big-time throw. People don't even know. And some of those deep outs he threw and deep angle routes, deep corners he threw were right on the money. It was really stunning to see a guy cement his future while these other guys are trying to hey, look at me.
Well, the point that you raised there, Tim, is a good one. And that is, even though Ohio State generally and Ryan Day specifically knew what they liked, knew what the potential would be with CJ Stroud, they still didn't know 100% that he could become what he was last year or this moving forward.
Yeah.
You still have, you can have all the physical tools and it not translate. You can be able to decipher any defense and not still be able to make the decisions on game day. Nothing is ever guaranteed. And obviously you see that with the guys in their pro days and the history of what happens when you go to the next level. That's the same sort of deal as taking a recruit and how great might he become at the college football level. Tate Martell was as touted as any high school quarterback ever was. Didn't ever translate at Ohio State or any of the other stops. And now you see him out of the game entirely after that final stop at UNLV. That's not to pick on Tate Martell. It's to illustrate how difficult it can be. Yep. So when you ask these guys and when you if you turn off a recorder and have a conversation with Ryan Day, and the reason why you don't just take one guy in a class or skip a recruiting class because you have a 5-star, and the reason that you do it year after year is because you still don't know how all those pieces are going to fit together. And CJ Stroud, as we're talking about this week, I felt like, but I'm not going to say knew is not the right word. I felt like they expected him to be the starter. He was on the path to be the starter, and they weren't ready because you still have to let the chips fall and see what happens once it becomes real. And it wasn't a smooth ascent, as we all know from what happened with the injury and early in the season, and first half against Minnesota, and sitting out a week later in September. That's a process. So it would be, it's inaccurate to say at this time a year ago we would be feeling this strongly about CJ Stroud and his chance to make this legacy and be the number 1 potential overall draft pick. It wouldn't be unfair to have said those were the expectations, but now that you can see how it could become a reality, that's different. And that's how much work has been done over the last 12 months and how far he's already come.
Yeah, you'll see in the interview, the little time I spent with Garrett Wilson, he brings up the fact that he wasn't even a blip on the radar screen, but he became a blip. And as I said to Garrett, I'm giving a scoop here. Which make you want? He wants to be a much bigger blip. He wants to be the blip, and Blippo. That I don't know if your kid watched Blippo, but my grandsons do. But that's another stupid thing. But the bottom line is, he wants to be that guy this year. He clearly does, and he's embracing it. He's bring it on. That's his approach. And I'm talking about CJ Stroud, and I just think it bodes well, for him and Ohio State. And real quick, before we move on to that thing I did with Garrett Wilson and his family, moments impress me in different ways. And I'm standing there on the field after I talked to CJ after that workout, and some others came up and started talking to him, and I walked away and started down the other way. And a guy stuck his hand out to shake hands with me. You know who it was? No, it wasn't a coach, whatever. It was Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
And that guy, man, he's an impressive young man. And that battle, if in fact he's having a battle with Devin Brown, is so important for this Ohio State football team. Because we saw last year, Kyle McCord had to play a whole game in place of C.J. Stroud when they finally let him rest that shoulder of his. And it's funny because that was probably from throwing the ball too much when you really get right down to it, even before the preseason camp started, because C.J. Stroud wanted to be so good last year. You could tell it. But Cal McCord, it's not just because he walked up and said hi to me. It's just he understands, what's going on. But number two, he's a press of flesh kind of guy. He understands, that having some relationship with the media does count in one form or fashion. And I don't know, am I overstating that a little bit? I mean, I'm impressed by a lot of these young men that are on this football team now.
Well, I think it's, once you're stacking up examples like that, not just one day, the pro day.
Wasn't just that day, right?
It's not just been that time with Kyle McCord. And when we talk about, him having a professional NFL, type mentality, that's what we mean. Sometimes you can't just point to one thing like that, but it's an example of the way he carries himself in public and in the locker room and the work ethic. And this is another situation where you could look back to, August and September for Kyle McCord. And, if you ask any members of the coaching staff or people who are watching practice, there was a time after that when CJ Stroud goes back in where he had to deal with his own, okay, well, what am I going to do with my career? What does this mean to me? He started to plateau a little bit in the practices, and you could, sense Ryan Day pushing him to get through that, because they also know how high the potential is for this kid and what he could become at quarterback. And I think, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, he's worked through that as well. And, I don't think there will be any real competition for Kyle McCord from Devin Brown. And that's not a knock on Brown. There's another very talented kid that we've talked about. And we like all the mental makeup from him and the physical tools once he bulks up a little bit more, and he's got this jump start going through spring. But I feel the same way about it as I did last spring. Like, Kyle McCord's not going to get beat out for that second spot, and CJ Stroud is entrenched at number one. And I think that there's an understanding of how this succession order is going to work and how it can benefit everybody. Yeah. That's great for Ohio State because, it could have easily gone a different way. I mean, they still did lose two guys from that position in the offseason, but the way that it worked out, again, to use some truth serum, I don't think Ohio State would complain about the room that has been left with and what it can build around moving forward. It's not like Quinn Ewers magically showed up at Texas and, was ready to go down there, or I don't know what will happen for Jack Miller, but, you knew you were never going to keep all four.
Right.
And if you were going to keep two, I think these guys have the best handle on what that situation is going to be. And that, again, is not to say that those other two can't be very good, because they were 4- and 5-star recruits for a reason and have a great chance, elsewhere. But I think these two that are here understand what they're being asked to do, understand how to do it, understand a professional way to go about it, and have a great chance to capitalize on that, even if none of this is guaranteed for anybody.
Yeah. Meanwhile, speaking of guarantees, speaking of athletic performance, how do you like my segue there?
I love it.
Let's get to my conversation with Garrett Wilson. I mean, there's a guy, I tweeted a picture partway through that, or maybe it's been right after that, the pro day. He and Chris Olave, after catching some deep balls, went walking back up the sideline. I said I titled this video "Rich Men Walking," and man, they look great in my opinion in the pro day. But like we said, the reason CJ Stroud kind of stole the day was because we already knew, and the scouts all knew about Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. And now it's just a matter of who pulls the trigger when, who trades up to get them, things like that, because you look around the league and there's still a premium on big-time elite wide receivers, guys that could be basically your number one, and a lot of people are scrambling right now just grabbing some number twos are going to try to make number ones. But we all know even number one receivers are different from number twos from a talent standpoint. So let's get to my conversation with Garrett Wilson. Just talking about a little bit about his workout, but also about coming up, about that time when he decided he was a great high school basketball player. Obviously, the son of Kenny Wilson, who played at Davidson, who was a really damn good. I think he's still fifth on the Davidson scoring list. That produced the Currys. So Steph Curry. So let's get to that conversation with Garrett Wilson, his mom Candace, and then his dad Ken, and then I keep calling him Ken, Kenneth, and Kenny. I never got clear because I called him all of those things while we were talking. He's a great guy, great conversationalist, as you well know. They lived in the Dublin area for quite a while before moving down to Lake Travis High School right outside of Austin for Ken's work, but also that's where Garrett Wilson plied his trade there in high school in the great state of Texas. Let's get to that conversation, and we'll be right back to talk about a few things.
I'm not gonna lie, we were kind of going a little more rapid fire than how we had prepared.
Yeah.
So, it's good to show our conditioning and stuff like that, but I know me and Chris were feeling it. So,
what did it mean to you to have CJ throwing you the ball occasionally? I think, obviously Cardale jumped in there too, but what you guys, obviously missed the Rose Bowl together, but one more shot, right?
Yeah, it felt comfortable. We trained, practiced all throughout the week, this past week, to get to this, where we were crispy for today. But, CJ's something that's super special, and he drops it in there and makes it easy as a receiver. So
yeah,
Chris was saying that CJ might be has the traits to be that.
Oh yeah, CJ's got it, man. I'll be surprised if he's not. So, it was a blessing to play with him the last season, and have him on the team the year before that, and I can't wait to see what he does this next season.
What makes him such a special quarterback?
Just his mindset. It's not a lot of quarterbacks you see that carry a chip on their shoulder like that. And he's someone that he doesn't fly under the radar, but he holds the chip on his shoulder like he does. And I like that about him.
Yeah, he wants to be a bigger blip on the radar. That's where he's headed, right?
Yeah. So he's going to be a big dog now, and I feel like he's always kind of had the underdog mentality, and I like that about him. It's special.
Hey.
Yeah, I like being violent in and out of them. Kind of snap down and be able to get in and out of things before they even notice. If you threaten someone with enough speed and can stop before them, they can't really guard you. So put a lot of pride in being able to stop before someone can stop. As far as defense and being able to get in and out of breaks, all that.
Leading up to the draft, a lot of people like to compare prospects to receivers. Regardless of that, is there anyone you look up to in the league?
I'd say probably my all-time favorite receiver is probably Stevie Johnson from the Bills back in the day. I like a lot of what he did, and just taking releases from him. I feel like he was ahead of his time. So I don't want to say comp, but as far as favorite player, like Cooper Kupp and Stevie Johnson.
Is Cooper Kupp just because he gets open and makes the catch? What's the attraction there that just jumps off the chart?
It's drill work that got him there. It's not Calvin Johnson when you watch the dude be 6'5" and
Megatron.
It's not Megatron where my fault where you can't work at it. You know what I mean? It's hard to see Calvin Johnson play and be like, I want to play like that. Because it's God given a lot of it.
Yeah.
And Cooper Kupp, is 4'6", but it's precision in routes. It's I've watched his his release YouTube video, and I actually took that about a year and a half ago and tried to add it to my own game. And it's just some he puts in the work, and it's not as much God given. So you can really drill the work that he does, and that's why I like it.
I asked your mom a while ago, were maybe something special athletically, whatever, and she said 5 or 6 years old, just like I told her one of my kids was like that. But when did this flame start to burn for you, Garrett, to be not in the NFL maybe, but even a first-round pick? When did you know that you had the wherewithal if you worked at it?
Probably when I first, decided I wasn't going to play basketball as my main sport.
Which was when?
That was sophomore year of high school. I really wanted to focus on football, and I had done well on varsity as a young cat, so I kind of had a feeling that I was pretty good at this thing, and I started to get offers. But as far as first round goes, I can't say I knew that until probably the opening. My senior year of going into senior year of high school, where there was all the great players around you, and I feel like I was still one of the best dudes there. And that was one of the things where I used that to tell myself, like, okay, I belong, and I can show out, that type of thing.
You feel like if you won at Lake Travis?
But honestly, it was more of me being 6 foot, and there's a whole lot more 6 foot receivers than there is 6 foot point guards, and that was just the the decision for me. You know, I got to keep it real with myself. And I was a size 13 foot in 7th grade, but I ain't get over 6 feet. I'm 5'11". So, you know, according to Day, I'm 5'11", man. It sucks.
Hey, you remember Rick, tight end?
I don't know.
He played basketball, and the quarterback coach here, then Walt Harris, convinced him, 6'7" guys in the NBA are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
But a 6'7" tight end back then,
Exactly.
And he was a first-round draft pick, you know.
Exactly.
Didn't let. But the point was, he got to where he was going.
Like 6'7", it puts you as an alien on a football field where you walk in a basketball room and you just another guy.
Pee-wee. Yeah.
And that's kind of my mindset. I was a business decision. I was 5'11", and I felt like my basketball skills could help me a lot in football. So.
One last question for me. You strike me as this guy who understands this is just the next step, not the final. A lot of people look forward to being a first-round draft pick, and bam, they've made it. But you have bigger ambitions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where does that come from? How long has it been?
Yeah, I mean, I've always, been a competitor, and I've always been someone who wants to be the best at what they do. Just getting there ain't enough for me. So, it doesn't stop there. Getting in the league, that's one thing, but playing that 10, 12 years, that's where the real success is at, and that's where the real, love is at. And I love playing the game. I want to do it for as long as I can. So I'd be dumb not to put everything towards that, and that starts with your mindset. So, I'm preparing myself to play 10, 12 years and, hopefully be one of the best to do it. And, that's how I approach things.
Just like Cooper Kupp. Nobody handed him anything. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to go do it, man. Yeah. People are going to tell you, you got to. You just got to try, man. So.
Hey, I got you.
8, 9.
Hey, Candace, tell me something real quick. When was the first time you saw that he could be like a special, athlete? You understand what I'm? Yeah. When did it dawn on you? I mean, I had a little kid that played baseball, and he was 5 years old. I went, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, with him, it was soccer, basketball, and football. Everything he played, it kind of was very easy to him, and because he had the older brothers, I felt as though he just jumped right in and learned a lot from them.
Yeah.
So I want to say it was probably similar. Like when he was 5, 6 years old, and he just seemed to be calm with it. He would go out there, and we'd all be going crazy in the stands or whatever, and he would just be out there and say, "This is what we're doing."
Just doing his thing. I mean, naturally almost, right? I mean, yeah, because that's what I wanted to ask you. To see him grow from that to today, when you're watching him show off, for want of another term, what is it? What is the feeling inside for a mom?
A lot of pride, a little nervous a lot. I'm not going to lie about that because, a lot of times when it's somebody with the ball, everybody's trying to take the ball, take him down.
By any means necessary.
By any means necessary. But I know he's doing what he loves. So I'm more proud and excited for him than anything else, for sure. What's up, Chris? Good to see you.
Your camera.
It's all right.
Good. He did amazing out there today.
Equipped is he to move to the NFL now, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think he's going to do great. I really feel as though he gets along well with people. He takes good direction. It's going to be a learning curve, of course, but that's with anything.
Yeah.
I think he's excited and ready for it. So he's just waiting for someone who wants him to be there, and he'll gravitate towards it. He's great with people, so I think it's going to be good.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you very
well.
much.
You're very welcome.
To your wife Candace about this, and I wanted to ask you, when did you notice that maybe Garrett was a little bit special? What age was that, roundabout?
There was 2 or 3 significant things. One was when he was 2 or 3 years old, he was playing with his brothers, and they were throwing the ball around really hard, and he was upset because they wouldn't throw it to him hard, and they started doing it, and he started catching it, and he was 2, 3. But the thing that I most noted was we were on a cruise and we were playing basketball. This is back in the day when I could still really play, his brothers could really play, and we were beating everybody all week. And so somebody got the idea that we should add a 5th player. So he was off to the side, and I said, "Okay, baby, come on."
How old was he?
10.
10.
And we were playing against adults and guys that thought they could play, and he destroyed them. Through their legs, between his legs, jump shots, dishing ball off, just being great. And I said, boy, this. And then the way he was so confident in himself, the way he was moving, the athleticism at that age.
Yeah.
I knew. Yeah.
You played.
And then one other side note, his brothers were all really great athletes. His older brother, great athlete. The other 2 brothers played college Division I football, and he was something different than them. And they're great athletes.
You played college basketball, correct?
That's
what was
right.
the name of the school?
Davidson.
Who's from Davidson besides you?
It's Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably need to call Davidson Steph Curry U now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's probably giving a lot to the school, I would think. A lot of pay forward.
Yeah.
Well, what I wanted to ask you was, is there any part of you that just feels like, oh man, I wish this guy had played basketball? Because he was pretty good in basketball.
Actually, he was great. He got a number of scholarship offers, and in fact, one of the most notable ones was Rick Barnes, the coach of Tennessee, recruited me at Davidson. He saw Garrett, came up to me and said, "Garrett's better than you," and he offered Garrett a scholarship.
Wow.
So there's a part of me that would have loved if one of my sons would play basketball. He was All-State. So was my son Cameron in basketball. But they have to choose their own path. They have to find their own light, and in this case, he was right.
Your dad, this isn't necessarily unbiased, but I think you're a pretty objective guy when you look at your son. How good is he? What is his ceiling, do you think? Does he have a ceiling? I mean, we've all watch him play at Ohio State. His daring do, as I call it.
Here's the way I look at that. That's a great question. As an athlete, I think Garrett's he's a phenomenal athlete. His athletic ceiling, though, will be he'll get stronger. He'll get more knowledge. So I think his athletic ceiling is still yet to be discovered. Yeah. I think he's got a ways to go, and he'll have a chance to compare himself against the very, very best. He's always met every challenge, and I think he will meet the challenge this time.
Does it tell you something about him and his makeup that Cooper Kupp is a guy that he
it does
aspires to? I mean, for want of another term, I mean, there's a guy that came the hard way,
Correct.
And
I like it, though, because I think Garrett, athletically speaking, I don't think anybody would argue he's probably more talented than Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes Cooper Kupp great is his technical ability.
Right.
I think this is the thing about him. He's a highly intelligent person, and I believe that if he takes the opportunity to be as technically sound as Cooper Kupp with his athletic ability, I think it'll make him great. And that's really what I hope for.
Yeah. Ken Wilson, man, he's one of my favorite guys. I've talked to him a couple of times, but finally got to talk to him in person. Yeah. And I know you agree with me 100% on that, right? You got to meet him.
Yeah, met the family, a couple of trips down there to Lake Travis, and not too far from where my parents live. So doubled up down there.
In Green?
Yeah, I got to know that program a little bit, especially with Matthew Baldwin before that.
Yeah.
So I remember going down to do the story on Matthew Baldwin and, going to watch the state championship game where he wound up getting hurt. And I was like, oh boy, like what else is there this is a big story. I'm going to cover that. He took, the 2 snaps and that was it.
I'm not smiling because Matthew Baldwin got hurt. I'm smiling about what's coming. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I, at that time, didn't follow all of the recruiting work that Berm did nearly as closely as I do now. And I've grown to have a better appreciation for it over time. But so, what else am I going to watch in this game? I'm working on the story. I wrote it. I spent time with the family, and I was going to and I wound up still spending more time with the Baldwins after the game. Went with the family. They all meet at outside of AT&T Stadium. There was a Home Depot about a mile away. It's when you've been down in that area a lot of times. It's like a gigantic spaceship in the middle of this strip mall, and waiting for them. But I'm like, well, what else am I going to watch from this game? And Garrett Wilson is he's keeping Lake Travis in it by himself. Special teams, ridiculous catches. He made a catch in that game that I'll never forget. That was exactly like the one he made in the Fiesta Bowl, and it's triple coverage, and he's soaring 10 feet in the air and coming down with it. I'm like, Berm, Ohio State, they have a real shot at this Garrett Wilson guy? And he's like, yeah, he grew up in Dublin. I'm like, he's one of the best high school wide receivers I've ever seen. And that was a junior. So, got to that little anecdote, which worked out, and being around, those people in Lake Travis, great families, a fantastic program. Been down there a 3rd time now with Caleb Burton.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I have a home away from home program, it's down there, beautiful campus. And I get all their jokes about, they only have a 50-yard indoor field that they don't feel like stacks up around what they should have or what other programs in Texas do. But I mean, it's a gorgeous place to go see a high school game, and there's always big time recruits there.
Yeah. Down there, the indoor facilities they have at places like that, or so they don't have to work out in the heat of the summer. You know what I mean? They're air conditioned, because how much does it rain in Lake Travis, in October? Not a whole lot. What a beautiful part of God's earth. I wanted to run this by you, though. This is what I was leading up to. How much do you think Ryan Day was beaming inside? Because he keeps that coach's face on pretty well. Watching the quarterback he sort of found and recruited throw to these two receivers. Chris Olave, a lot of people, he stole bases for the baseball team, and he was otherwise sort of an unknown, where he came. I can't remember the name of his high school down in the San Diego area, California. And then Garrett Wilson, you talk about a team becoming a coach's own. It's when you get into that third and fourth year, and most of the players are players that were recruited while you were the head coach, while it was your staff, et cetera. And how much do you think he was beaming? Because those three guys, who jumped off the chart at you the other day, just like they have the last couple of years. Wow. I mean, he's got to feel like he's got to feel some kind of pride that he helped not only bring these guys along, but that he quote unquote found them, right?
Yeah. And I think that, his personal involvement in those recruitments are why you'd see sort of the competitive side of him start to show up. I talked to Cardale about this after they were done. Like, they started doing some stuff that wasn't on the script because Ryan Day said, well, we can do this and push this route deeper down the field, or CJ, you could make this throw. And like the tempo started picking up, and it got to be like a practice. And I think that, look, Ryan Day is not going to be able to do that forever. He's not going to be intimately involved in every marquee recruitment forever. He's not going to be on the road permanently the same way that the assistants will be. He wants to be that CEO role at some point. He's also not going to be the same age and being out there actively leading those drills forever. That's just the fact of life. It's not some sort of like end of the road thing. I'm just, at some point, you're not going to be at this point in your career doing all those things and having had the same relationships and been in the same living room with those, guys and their parents the way that he was with these three. And I got that sense just watching it, what you're talking about with his pride, and then also an ability to push those guys that others can't. I mean, Brian Hartline's obviously there watching and involved in that. And I remember him watching, film, or telling me the story of watching film on Chris Olave when he was still in the, volunteer role, and just watching film, like writing up a scouting report. All those guys played key roles in either the recruitment or the development or both, or building offenses around them. And considering what a turbulent time this transition could have been or was, depending on your perspective, the way that they've come out of it and the role that those three players have played or will continue to play, and those particular coaches, I mean, they have a lot to be proud of. And they're also not satisfied, obviously, with what happened last year, but it's still, they won a lot of games together, and they want to send them out on the right note. And I think they all did. Well,
that's my point. My point is, you're not going to win every game. Even Alabama doesn't win every game, as they found out. Even Georgia doesn't win every game, as it found out. My point is, though, people have to understand. I've said this many times. This is a golden era, man, when it comes to offensive football at The Ohio State University. The O stands for offense. And if people, I know most people are getting that message. Doesn't mean you're going to win every game, but the show that's put on a routine basis now, is Broadway quality, for want of another analogy, and big time Broadway quality. And the players have, just like, you just mentioned a guy a minute ago, a guy that they went down and got, Caleb Burton. I don't know how, with the stack house at wide receiver right now, is he going to get a shot to show? But all indications are he's pretty darn good in his own way, just like Garrett Wilson is, just like Chris Olave is. And they just keep coming in the front door, right? I mean, that's not hyperbole. That's an accurate assessment, correct?
Yep. I mean, what they've built there with Ryan Day and Brian Hartline and Kevin Wilson and Corey Dennis and now Justin Fry, like, it does start at the top there with those guys. It'd be foolish not to view it that way. He's an Ryan Day was brought in to update, upgrade, enhance the offense for Urban Meyer, and he unequivocally did that.
Yeah.
And probably to a higher level than anybody could have reasonably anticipated when you look at what's been going on the last couple of years. I mean, being the highest scoring offense in the country doesn't happen by accident. And you can see why how appealing that success is to the top wide receivers in the country who want to play for Brian Hartline, and the top quarterbacks in the country who we just talked about, early on in the podcast, why they want to play for Ryan Day and what this offense can do. I mean, it's not been done before at Ohio State. And this program has accomplished almost everything there is to do in college football, and yet it's breaking new ground on that side of the football. And somehow it can still even get better.
Oh, yeah.
That's just – it's hard to comprehend all that.
We're about to talk about that in brief because I've got to get going here. You and I both have places to go, people to see, miles to go before we sleep, miles to go before we sleep. One of the few poems I ever memorized, but I digress. Two digresses. A guy named Sam Block put up an interesting tweet earlier this week, and it was funny because he did an Ohio State running back Mount Rushmore, and that's always, boy, you're really playing with the devil there when you got the devil by the tail, really, when you put one of those up. Because I remember I did a story many years ago, well, back I think 2009 or something like that, on a Mount Rushmore at Ohio State. Who would it be if you could put them up there? And I said, the Givens were Bill Willis, Chick Harley, and Woody Hayes. Who's that fourth guy? And of course, the guy that got elected, I let the readers of the Dispatch send in their votes, and they elected Jim Trussell. That was the year before, 2010. If you follow my drift, whether he would have still been elected. But the thing is, who is the fourth guy you put on there? Well, Sam Block has put up the Ohio State running back Mount Rushmore, and his number 1 is Archie Griffin. Number 2 is Eddie George. Number 3 is Ezekiel Elliott. Number 4 is J.K. Dobbins. Now, of course, when you do that, oh my goodness, the names you left out. And boy, the responses to his tweet were interesting because they started naming names like you wouldn't believe. And but I'll throw up there, Archie Griffin won 2 Heisman trophies and was the most prolific rusher in, I think, NCAA history when he graduated. Eddie George won 1 Heisman Trophy in 1995, which was, to that point, the greatest rushing season in Ohio State history. Zeke Elliott had the greatest last 5 games of a season, most impactful that I can ever recall in 2014 when they ran to the national championship. He kind of helped everything weather the storm with J.T. Barrett getting hurt and Cardale Jones stepping in there. So you've got him. He probably would have won the Heisman Trophy had been voted on after the whole year's over, when it probably should be, right? And then J.K. Dobbins had the greatest rushing year, in terms of total yards in Ohio State history, almost a record that's been slept on. I think as you talk about the great prolific offenses we've seen in the last several years at Ohio State, but Keith Byers, in my opinion, had the greatest single season for 8 games. His junior year, nobody could tackle him, and should have probably still won the Heisman that year, but Doug Flutie won it. And then right on down the line, you could name another 10 guys who would be in the running for that. But it is folly a little bit, right, that Mount Rushmore only had 4 heads up on it, because maybe the new Mount Rushmores ought to have about 6 or 8 when it comes to a place like Ohio State. What do you think?
Hey, they would have really been onto something back then if they were like, you know what? We're going to help people in 150, 200 years, make it a more heated debate, and we're just going to stick with 4 people on the side of this mountain.
Yeah.
Because, 5, 6, you can cop out. It becomes too easy.
Yeah. Go ahead. Like the college football playoff. Go ahead now.
That's right. You want to have some debate there for the final spot. I love JK, and
yeah,
he may be underrated in some respects, but putting him in the top 4 at this point might be a little too much recency bias and a little bit overrated. I wasn't even watching as closely as you were with Keith Byers, but I know from having these conversations with other Ohio State fans and media members and coaches and over the years that it would be a big mistake to overlook him in that top 4. I think a guy who never gets enough attention in this and you look at the stats and you look at the impact, Beanie was pretty damn special.
Yep.
What he did, I'd have a tough time removing him from that conversation.
Well, Pepe Pearson had a hell of a 2 years.
And a lot of people like Maurice Claret for
Tim
that.
Spencer. Oh, yeah. Maurice Claret, exactly. I mean, he scored the winning touchdown in the national championship game, helped get them there, and had one of the greatest takeaways in Ohio State football history when he grabbed that ball out of Sean Taylor's hands. Yeah. But then, Howard Hopalong Cassidy was a running back. They didn't play like they do now, But I tell you what, we're going to have to wrap it up now, if you don't mind, Austin, because I've suddenly got an emergency phone call I've got to deal with. But those things are always good to debate, though. Don't you agree?
Yeah, we'll pick it up another time.
You got it, ladies and gentlemen. For Austin Ward, my co-pilot, this is Tim May with the Tim May Podcast. We'll see you next week.